Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hockey Happy Hour. We are live from the BMW of Atlantic City Studios here in Mount Ephraim, New Jersey. I am Matt Tsutsuti. This is Brian the Darkwing Daily, and we got Rob the Broken One Povia behind the board. And today we're talking about what else? Hockey, of course, here at the Hockey Happy Hour. What else would we be talking about?
Wrestling.
Well, we will throw in a little bit of that a little bit later on into the show. We are brought to you by Skizana Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.skinzanasports.com. Today's main topic is going to be an interesting one. So all I'm going to ask for everybody to do right now is to just sit right there, and we're going to tell you how the NHL became a prince of a town called Las Vegas. And that is with the Golden Knights. So this is the story all about how the NHL got all twisted, turned upside down. The Las Vegas Golden Knights are now an NHL franchise. I never thought I'd see the day that a Vegas team would exist in the NHL, but hey, there's a first time for everything, isn't there? And Vegas has drafted their picks. They have made their selections in both the expansion and their first entry draft. They have stocked up their picks as well by making continuous trades with other teams, sending guys like Trevor Van Riemsdyk to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for pick. And actually, picks is a better word for it. But with all that being said, we want to debate, is this really going to work out for the NHL at the end of the day? We got into it a little bit last week. At the very end of the show, we talked about, is this a smart move for Las Vegas? Is this a smart move for the NHL? Or is the NHL going to have another Arizona Coyotes situation on their hands? Or, even worse, a Oakland Seals situation, whereas the Coyotes still exist, but the Oakland Seals don't anymore for obvious reasons. And I'm pretty sure half the people who don't even know hockey existed back in the 70s probably don't even know who the Oakland Seals are. But anyway.
Even some of the people that do probably just...
They probably forgot all about them because they were only there for a hiccup in the NHL history. But anyway.
Get out of my memory.
With those wonderful, beautiful, teal uniforms with the yellow lettering around them, looking like the Oakland Athletics of the NHL, They even had white skates to match the Oakland Athletics with the white shoes.
Well, I mean, some cities do like to keep their uniforms in sync, i.e. Pittsburgh.
But this was one of those times that they should have just not at all.
Those uniforms were atrocious.
Anyway.
Terrible.
So we talk about the Las Vegas Golden Knights, getting into the debate of whether this is a good move or not a good move for the team. But we'll also be talking about franchises in the NHL, the failed ones, the successful ones in exotic locations, and also where else the NHL may wind up going, possibly. Where we think they'll go and where we'd want them to go are two different subjects, but we'll talk about both. Where do we want the NHL to go, but where will the NHL go? You get what I'm saying here? You're picking up on this pattern because usually 90% of the time where the NHL goes is not where we want it to be. But oh well, that is what it is. So let's get into it. The Golden Knights. The Twitter poll is a very simple question that we laid out to the fans. Will the Golden Knights be a successful franchise in the NHL? Simple yes or no question. There are no wrong answers. It's only opinions. They're all like assholes. We all got one. So let's get into it.
And they usually stink.
Oh, that's twice he beat me to it.
So, gentlemen, do you think the Vegas Golden Knights will be a good expansion choice? Or do you see the Knights possibly being a bad investment for the NHL?
You want to handle this one first, Rob?
I do, because the proof's already in the pudding. If you look at season ticket sales, they're already sold out for the next, 10 seasons, is it, Brian?
Yep.
I think as a fanfare, it's more than just a novelty. You go to, what's the sport betting capital of the world? Las Vegas. You also will have the former Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, being there in 3 years once the stadium's built and what have you. So they're really creating a sports mecca. So it's already popular now, and I think that's only going to grow.
Personally, I think it's just been a matter of time before Vegas got a professional sports team. I mean, it's Sin City. It's the biggest. It's the most visited city in the world. People come from all over the world to go to Las Vegas. And the fact that it took so long for them to get a professional team, no matter what sport it is It took way too long, and I think there could be a lot of success here. They already have a good foundation put in place for an entertaining hockey club, and it's just going to be one more thing for people to do that bring their family to Las Vegas that can't gamble.
Well, I think I know where I'm going to be laying on this one. I just don't like this move altogether. I've never liked the idea of putting hockey in exotic locations because 90% of the time you don't get a fan base, and 90% of the time you don't sell a product. And the NHL has already made enough bad investments already. I mean, look at some of the teams that have the expansion. Look at the Florida Panthers. They have no fan base. Even with the team they have no fan base. Tampa has fleeting fans at best. And that's not just in hockey. That's in all four sports.
That's in baseball especially.
And some exotic locations worked out. I mean, San Jose is one of those rare occasions that it worked out. You had a very loyal, rabid fan base, and you still have a very loyal, rabid fan base, no matter what the Sharks do, whether they make it to the playoffs or whether they get outed in the first round, which is 90% of the time. And you also have places like Philadelphia that was an exotic location at the time when they did expand in the 1970s or the 60s. When it came to Philadelphia, Philadelphia did not really know hockey existed and didn't really care that hockey existed. Philadelphia was simply football with the Eagles, even though the Eagles stunk back then. The Phillies were beloved, but they were the losers, as they always usually are, 90% of the time. And the Sixers were terrible at the time, too. So, it's kind of like, well, there was really no good teams. But the one thing that the Flyers capitalized on was they became a winner, and they became a winner real fast. And that's what got them the loyal fan base that followed, because after that, the Flyers won 2 Stanley Cups in the 70s, and that was it. They cemented their spot in Philadelphia history forever. They can't add a third one to save their sorry asses, but they definitely cemented their spot in Philadelphia history. If that does happen, and I know I'm drawing this out, but the reason why I am is that certain times you have certain exotic locations that do pan out for you. But in recent years, they have not for the NHL. Nashville is one of those rare occasions that it did. But look at Carolina. They have won a Stanley Cup, but no one cares that they exist. No one gives a shit that they exist. And I know they're recently going through a sale that will keep them in Carolina most likely. But still, it's like no one cares. No one cared in Atlanta. And Atlanta wound up selling that team, and it moved to Winnipeg. Now it's got a fan base that can't get enough of the Winnipeg Jets, even though the team has been mediocre at best for its entire existence. It's just I don't like the idea of making exotic location choices without having any real tested ground, because Las Vegas has no history with hockey. It has limited semi-pro history with hockey. That's not a good basis to judge it on. And to go along with it, there have been no minor league teams there. So you have no real basis to go on.
See, that's a good point, Matt, right? We could talk about the Raiders. We could talk about the Las Vegas 51s, which is the Mets AAA farm affiliate, do wildly popular there in terms of, and that's baseball, right? So we got football and baseball covered, not a major league sport, but still a high AAA minor league.
A basis.
Right.
Yeah.
Basketball does well there despite them not having a pro team. Will hockey? And you always made this point when you put hockey in warm climates, we've seen it fail before. So I hear what you're saying. I don't want you to be alone on that island. I do hear what you're saying.
I do too, and I'm just going to say this. I think team success, franchise success always has to fall back on your ownership. If you have a good owner, it doesn't matter where the team is, and you have an owner that wants to win, it doesn't matter where the team is. The team will succeed. I mean, it's up to the team to build the fan base, and if the ownership doesn't want the fan base, they're not really going to do much to build it. And I think that's where you see a lot of these teams that aren't successful, teams like the Arizona Coyotes. They don't have a fan base. It's a lackluster franchise. They keep losing. It's got to fall back on ownership at some point.
I mean, here's the other thing too. I know that everybody's getting all hyped up about that season ticket buzz. But the thing is, though, is like it's new. It's that early buzz of, this is a new, exciting product out here. We've never seen this before.
For 10 years, though? For 10 years?
I completely get where you're at.
Yeah.
If it's like maybe they still sell out like 5 years. Yeah, I totally see your point. It's new. But we're talking 10 years, dude.
That's
10
fine.
years.
Okay, 10 years is 10 years. But let's talk about that though for a quick second. Just because they made the sale on the tickets for the 10 years, does that really mean that the team is going to really make great revenue 10 years after the fact? But I mean, I know if the team is still there in 10 years after the fact, and I'm not trying to doubt them, but I'm just saying, like, yes, we saw the season ticket sales. We've got that big buzz going on. But again, if the product doesn't sell well, guess what's going to happen? No one's going to care. Even the people who bought those season tickets, they may hang on for a couple of seasons, maybe a few. The best ones, the most loyal ones, may hold on for 5 at tops. But after the team is just absolutely just shat the bed again, do you really think anyone's going to be there for them? Now, I'm not saying the ownership hasn't built the team well enough to where they couldn't be competitive enough, and they actually, checking out the ranking systems on their farm team, they actually don't have a bad farm system going into this. But, again, I'm just putting out the facts of it's an early buzz. It's an early buzz for a team that we have never seen play a game yet. We don't know how the players are going to work with each other. We don't know how the coaching's going to work with these guys. There's a lot of wild cards that we are not taking into account here. And to go along with it, we don't know how invested the Vegas fan base will be after the initial buzz. Initial buzz always sparks up interest, but then the team falls off. No one gives a shit anymore.
There's no doubt about it. You're correct.
No, you're right. But again, you got to, in a situation like this, yeah, there's buzz, but, it's up to the ownership and the team and everybody else to build up the fan base and put a good product out on the ice.
And you're right. You're right on that. The real thing, though, that is going to come down to is how is the product going to be out on the ice? Is it going to be a winning product? Is it going to be a good, decent, solid product? Is it going to be able to put asses in the seats by having a star? There's a few things you got to take into account there, because if you don't have a star, you don't have somebody to throw the jerseys of. You don't have the merchandise to throw at the fans like that. If you don't have a superstar, you got to have one of those guys on an early expansion team, especially in an exotic location that needs a superstar. Every team needs one. The Phoenix Coyotes never had one. They had really great players, but they never had that one major superstar that kind of, when you think Phoenix Coyotes, you think of that person. At least not to my knowledge.
Keith Tkachuk?
You could go with Keith Tkachuk. I don't know. He's played on other teams, and I think more
borderline, because was he a great hockey player? Yes, but was he an elite? No.
Yeah. I mean, they still had Jeremy Roenick, and they had Rick Tocchet, and they had really good players on the
Past their prime.
on the Phoenix Coyotes. It's not that they had bad players on their team, but homegrown, developed talent-wise, there's a few guys who have made it through the system in Phoenix, but never anyone that has been, when you think Coyote,
noteworthy.
that's my other point. You need somebody like that. Look at the Sharks. When you think of San Jose, who do you think of? Patrick Marleau. Instantly, Patrick Marleau, built up from the system up, and he was a great player all those years to go along with it. Hell, you even think of Joe Thornton, even though he played in Boston, and you think of Joe Pavelski.
There's another one that came through their system too.
San Jose did a great job of building up their team in a location that you would think, being in California, wouldn't work out for a team, but they managed to make it work because they had it. I mean, hell, the Ducks even, Teemu Selanne.
Paul Correa.
Rushin, yeah, they had phenomenal players. And obviously LA had Marcel Dion, had Wayne Gretzky, had and the California teams used the stars to their advantage to make themselves get out there. That's another question the Golden Knights are going to have to address. Are they going to have a superstar that's going to get people to go, wow, I want to go see so-and-so play down at the T-Mobile Arena? That's another thing that's going to be a selling point, is putting asses in the seats. Do you have a good enough product out on the ice to do this?
I mean, I'm looking at the roster now. They have enticing players to go see. I mean, they have a good goalie, Marc-Andre Fleury. They have defenseman Nate Schmidt, Shea Theodore, Brandon McNabb, Derek England, guys that are good at defense. And then on offense, they have Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, who's a good role player down in the bottom six. Eric Haula, who's probably going to I think he's going to be the one wearing the C for this team. Oscar Lindberg, Jonathan Marchessault, James Neal, David Perron. They got guys that can.
I mean,
kill penalties. I think their penalty kill is going to be pretty outstanding right out the get-go.
Yeah,
But
they do.
I mean, superstar caliber wise, that's
Superstar caliber? No, not yet. But they do have some good players that are enticing enough that will draw.
All right. Well, then I ask you this question. So say you're the Golden Knights and you're going into this expansion draft. Do you consider going out and just getting a big name? And it doesn't have to be a guy you have to commit to long term. You just get him to sell. And then that way you can immediately put a quick brand on the product.
I would have. I would absolutely have. I would have absolutely gone after Bobby Ryan. Because he is a superstar in this league. He's a 30-goal scorer. He would have been that guy that would have been like, oh, yeah, let's go to the Knights game. Bobby Ryan's playing tonight.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was something I think the Knights – I mean, the soft season's not over. They could still pull a trade and do something like that if they want to. They got plenty of draft picks. They could easily say, we'll give you, like, all of this lock, stock, and barrel if you give us this guy. And they could do that. But until they do that, I'm questioning, sure, you've got guys like Marchessault who have some scoring ability. You have guys like James Neal who can be a pest and can get a goal when he needs to by being a dirty player or getting to the dirty areas. You have guys like that. But in terms of that star power, they don't have somebody. And you can't bank on Marc-Andre Fleury because is he still playing well? Yes, but he is getting older, and when's he going to hang up his skates? That's the question you got to ask there. It's just I just think that in the long term, you need a superstar player to brand your team. Now, again, there have been other teams who did not have a superstar to start off with. Eventually, they got one, and it worked out for them. Will it happen here? Hopefully, it will. We'll see what happens, but. Thing is, though, is that there's just a lot of question marks with the Golden Knights. That's my overall point here. A lot of question marks going in.
Real quick, just to touch upon your superstar point, they could have had a superstar on the defensive end in Trevor Van Riemsdyk. It was a great pick in the expansion draft from the Chicago Blackhawks. But then they traded him away. And now it could have been salary cap things. Maybe they didn't take this into account because it was doing advanced calculus trying to figure out the ins and outs of the expansion draft. But that was a guy that you really could have built the defense around, and they traded him away. And that was my only head scratcher. Otherwise, I think they did it really well. I think they put together a pretty nice squad.
I do too. And Maddie, you have, your opinion is fair, but you can also say, the expectations for any team. Like, you don't know what's going to happen to any team in this league. And more so the Vegas. And I completely understand why you think that. And I agree. They don't have a superstar yet.
I'm not saying that that's not possible, that they can't go out and get one in the free agency, and actually not the free agency, but go and get one from another team. But not only that, they do have a very solid farm system from what the rankings were showing. They have the 14th overall farm system there, so they've probably got somebody down there that they're looking at that could possibly be that mover or shaker that they want to push forward, plus their draft pick that they got this year. There are possibilities out there. It's just the first I feel like this season could make or break this team, and I don't want to see this team fail and be a bad investment or just be a team that's the Arizona Coyotes 0.2. You don't want to see that, where you see a team that, they were exciting for the first couple of seasons, but then they fell off and the team just lost their fanfare. They never got a solid superstar that could really help brand their product and really make them that this is the guy that I want to go see down in the T-Mobile Arena. That's just one of the major facets of when you're selling a product. You need to have something. You need to have a mascot. Not an actual mascot. They got one. But I'm talking about the person you slap on your brand that says, this is so-and-so. I mean, look at the Flyers. Flyers, when they got Bobby Clark, slapped him right on. This is the Philadelphia Flyers. To this day, when you think Philly, who do you think of? You think of Bobby Clark. You don't think of anybody else. Immediately comes to your head is Bobby Clark. And he was the major superstar that the Flyers got in the draft.
I think the Knights might already have their superstar. He just needs to break out. And I think that's going to be Oscar Lindberg.
Oh, that's a good call. That's a really good call, man.
I mean, he didn't have a great season last year in 65 games, only 20 points, but he just needs to break out. Yeah, it's 65 games. Tremendously talented center. Great on the draw.
What team was he playing for again?
I think he was the Rangers.
Okay,
He
so
came from the Rangers.
So that would be another issue. He's chalked up with a lot of veterans to go along with that. So a little hard to kind of stick out and burst out when you're kind of in the mix with a lot of older names that have a lot more NHL experience than you. But that's a good chance for him. I mean, it's a very good chance for him to step up to the plate and say, you know what, I'm going to make this team my team. And I'm going to be known when someone says Vegas Golden Knights, you think of Oscar Lindberg. He has the opportunity to do that. Actually, everybody's got that chance on this team. The question is, will somebody rise up to that equation?
Yeah, I mean, Reed Duke could be another one. I don't know much about this kid, but I know he was the first ever signing by the Vegas Knights, so we don't really know what he can really bring to the table. But
great hockey name. That's what he brings to the table. A great
he
sporting
brings that
name.
too,
and
yeah.
Here comes the Duke. Knocking your teeth out.
But overall, like I said, this team has a good foundation built. They got good players overall, but I agree with Maddie. They do need a superstar, but that's gonna come in time.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what that goes forward. But the other point, again, that these are just points I'm bringing up because I feel like the NHL is getting I think a lot of people are getting way too hyped on the early buzz of this team.
So hype, bro.
In my opinion, that's a bad thing to do because the next thing you know, this team doesn't make the playoffs or this team isn't very good or it doesn't compete very well. And then everybody's like, oh, man, this team sucks. Why did I ever get invested into the team? It's like you got to take a step back for a quick second and remember, like, this is a coin flip. This isn't just automatic. This is going to be a slam dunk perfect victory. This is a coin flip. This is either going to be a great thing or it's going to be a terrible thing that handcuffs you for years to come. So I'm just bringing that up. I feel like somebody has to because no one is.
The voice of reason, Matt Tsutsui.
No one's bringing this up. No one is bringing up the possibilities of being a failed franchise. They're only seeing like, oh my God, the NHL's going to Vegas. It's so phenomenal. It's like, okay, it can be phenomenal, but only if they play their cards right and only if the team performs well on the ice.
Great
That's
God
the
Almighty.
only way. The only way this works.
It's true.
I think Vegas will be okay. I think they'll be all right.
I think they're going to be more than okay.
Well, everybody's got their opinions. Feel free to give yours. We have the Twitter poll out. It's on Facebook, and you can also put us in on the comments on YouTube as well as Twitter if you want to about what you feel about Las Vegas being an NHL franchise. Will the Golden Knights be successful? Yes or no?
Well,
simple question and a not so simple answer. You can give your opinion and feel free to.
Our friend David Roska
Got that one.
has commented. He says the Vegas Golden Knights should have been started way back in 1989.
Actually, you know what? If they had started way back in 1989, that would have been really interesting.
I think I know where he's coming from on that, though, not to cut you off, Maddie, because wasn't there a thing where there was an outdoor game in Vegas? I think it was in the late 80s or early 90s, and it was when Gretzky was with the Kings. I remember distinctly him playing there or whatnot, and that's when talk started about hockey in Vegas. And talking flash forward maybe 25, 27 years later, it finally
got
came.
it.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to have to wait another 25, 27 years to get a team in Seattle since they've been talking about that for a little while now, too.
Rob is actually correct, but it was in 1991.
Oh, 91. Right,
it was at September 27th, 1991. It was a game between the Los Angeles Kings and the New York Rangers. And the Kings won 5-2. It was held at Caesars Palace's parking lot.
Yep. In the parking lot.
In Las Vegas with an attendance of 13,007 people. And yeah, that's pretty interesting right there. I did not realize they put an outdoor game out there in Vegas. But you know what? Roska is right, though, in that regard, though. Putting an outdoor game, it just changed the year from 89 to 91. You could have looked at it. And back then, the NHL was still expanding. You know, there were teams like San Jose that were coming into the league. Tampa was coming into the league at the time.
Anaheim was a couple years later.
The talk might have started before that outdoor game, and it inspired that game to try to see what kind of fanfare. And they had an outdoor game. Now, mind you, it's not as commonplace then as it is now, where you have like 4 or 5 a year. It was a very new thing, especially in how do you like to say it, exotic climate, as you say, and it went over well in terms of success for a game. But what did you just say in there? 13,000, right? That's decent. But most teams for their regular home games sell out at what, 19, 20,000?
About that.
So you got less than that for a novelty game. That's why it took 27, or in this case, from going from that game forward, quick math, 26 years.
Andrew White's commenting in, I give them 5 years and they will have at least 2 top 10 draft picks and they make the playoffs.
Wow.
5 years. Wow.
I don't necessarily think I'm going to give them 5 years.
Think sooner?
I think a little bit sooner.
Wow.
I mean, I don't see him making the playoffs in the next 2 or 3 years, but maybe year number 4.
It's a competitive conference, though.
It's a very competitive conference. I think they'll be able to keep up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go to some more comments we got flooding in on Facebook. Greg Milakovic chimes in. He answers the poll, unless they come into some unforeseen ice issues, I don't see why they can't. And that kind of addresses the point that Maddie made earlier that, exotic climates, you do get choppy ice, and it becomes a problem in terms of the flow of the game. It slowed down even high-paced teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning. He just says that he doesn't see why not. You just got to build it the right way. And so far, according to Brian Daly, they have. Frank Vespi goes, possibly. Still, the book's still out on it. So it goes to show that even though me and you are siding on the side that they will be successful, Brian, there's a lot of merit to what Matt's saying, and it's got a lot of people wondering the possibilities.
It's just it's an opinion. It's just personally my opinion of it is just like, the NHL has made a lot of risky investments over the last few expansions. They've put teams in locations that have not worked out. They took a successful franchise out of Winnipeg, put it in Phoenix. It's done terrible since. Never going to get the kind of revenue out of Phoenix that they could remotely get out of Winnipeg. And now there's another team there. So you can't move it back. And then to go along with it, one of the rare occasions it actually worked out was you took the team out of Quebec and you put them in Colorado. And the only reason that worked out is because Colorado really loved hockey and adapted to it real fast. Not only that, they had a great product out on the ice because you had Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, and the list goes on and on. That immediately took off with success, and they won the Stanley Cup that year. So, of course, that team's going to be successful going down the line. It's not like winning the Stanley Cup your first year of existence to go ahead and cement your spot in sporting history out there. Point being, though, is that was one of the few occasions it worked. Because you also took a team out of Hartford and you put it in Carolina. It may have won one Stanley Cup, but does anyone really care? No. No one gives a shit about Carolina. No one gives a shit about the Carolina Hurricanes. Do they even care about the Panthers down there? They do? Okay, well, at least they care about something down there.
I know it all comes down to marketing, too. You got to have a good marketing team, and that comes from ownership hiring the right people. And if you don't hire the right people, you can't build that fan base through marketing.
That's true. That's true as well, but it's also got to be the people that's got to want to watch the product, And some people just don't care about hockey. In their location, they will never give a shit about hockey. It's just the way it is. And it's nothing that hockey can do about it. Hockey's a great game. It's a great sport to watch. It's fun. It's exciting. It's thrilling. It's got fighting. It's got everything you could possibly want. But some people just don't give a crap about it. They'd rather watch basketball or they'd rather watch football or baseball. It's just the way it is. You got to accept that and realize that there are dead spots you should not put a hockey team in, like Atlanta. Brilliant move on your part, by the way, Gary Bettman. Anyway, Rob, you were going to say something?
It was just so funny. As soon as you brought up the Panthers, a post dropped on our station's Instagram account asking which Panthers player arrived to camp in the best fashion, and they showed one vehicle, the duck, and it kind of had like a card tricked out, with a duck theme, so to speak. For you, Brian.
Was it the actual Anaheim Ducks, or is it actually like a duck?
More like the Oregon Duck.
The Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, it must be from Oregon, the player, because it doesn't say which player it was. Then it said B, the dragon, C, dropped off by mom.
But I'm going to say C.
I do think that, I mean, they have a good passion. I've been down in Carolina several times, partying down in Myrtle Beach, and they really love their sports out there, Hurricanes included, though. So in that area, a lot of fanfare, but that's about it.
Could maybe ticket prices are a little too high for their liking for the way the team's been playing, and nobody's paying to go see him.
Truth.
I mean, there's all kinds of different possibilities on why these teams aren't
ticket
finding
revenues, they do poorly.
Yeah,
That's what you. All right, my bad.
that's kind of where like I'm thinking like, and to me, and I'm probably wrong here. It all comes back on marketing.
It can, but again, it's just it's strange. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try and make a bold experiment and try to put a team in a location you wouldn't necessarily think it would work, but to take a team out of a successful market and put it in an unsuccessful market, you're handicapping yourself. And people wonder why hockey fell off in the 4 major sports because of stupid decisions like that. And it continues to hurt the NHL even to this day with the bad investments, the bad ideas. Sure, the money may be in the United States, but if no one's going to pay to see the team, you're not going to see that money. So what was the purpose? You might as well just left the team in freaking Canada. You would have made something at least out of it. Anyway, we'll talk more about this on the other side. We'll also get into the Philadelphia Flyers as well, because this is a Flyer show still. They rank the best farm systems in the NHL from top to bottom, from 1 through 31, because, yes, there are now 31 teams in the NHL. And we'll go down the list. We'll talk about it. And you might be a little bit surprised and also excited for who landed at number 1. That's on the other side. But first, I'll talk to you about the Sports Salad. They are for all your sporting needs. They are located at 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey. You give them a call at 856-939-2030. Email them at sportsaladnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsaladinc.com. This is the Hockey Happy Hour on a2dradio.com. We will be right back after this.
Welcome in to the worldwide leader of what? Real talk, a2dradio.com.
A2dradio.com is sponsored by the Sports Salad for all your sporting needs. Located at 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey. Give them a call at 856-939-2030 or email them at sportsaladnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsaladinc.com for all your sporting needs. The Sports Salad.
A2dradio.com is proudly sponsored by Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants. Gibson Mayer, located in Yardley, PA, is a leading accounting and business consulting firm with a proven track record of handling critical issues with expertise across many different industries, including construction, distribution, hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, service trades, merchandising, professional services, and professional athletes. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. That's 215-369-3300. Your initial consultation is always free, and if you tell them that Tom and Mike from AM and the PM sent you, you'll receive 15% off all income tax services completed by February 15th. That's Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants, 215-369-3300, or visit them on the web at www.gibsonmayer.com. That's gibsonmayer.com.
get your skills in shape, then contact the Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com. John Scanzano offers individual, semi-private, and team training lessons in hitting, pitching, catching, outfield, along with turf rentals. The Scanzano Sports Center is equipped with a 31,000 square foot indoor facility, 4 batting cages, and a 4,000 square foot strengthening and conditioning room. So what are you waiting for? Contact the Scanzano Sports Center today.
Fellas, you ever come in from that baseball or football game and your woman won't come near you because you stink beyond belief? Then you need Soap Stash. You should never settle for a generic hygiene product that only covers up the stench. Treat your skin with the best nutrients. Feel clean with the only soap you'll need. The highest grade carrier oils are ingrained in all of their products, which are 100% natural and terrific for your skin. No sulfates, parabens, or phthalates, and synthetic fragrance free. Contact Soap Stash for your sample package and give your woman what she deserves. You can contact Soap Stash at 844-890-3197 or visit them on the web at soapstash.com or Facebook at Soapstash LLC. Once again, their number is 844-890-3197. Soap Stash, the new soap standard.
You're listening to the Hockey Happy Hour, only on A2DRadio.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hockey Happy Hour. We are live from the BMW of Atlantic City Studios here in Mount Ephraim, New Jersey, brought to you by the Soap Stash. They are the new soap standard, and you can treat your skin with the only soap you'll need. You want to know why? Because they have the best nutrients with the highest grade carrier oils that are ingrained in all of their products, which are 100% natural. And you're probably asking, what does that mean? Well, that means it gives your skin a complete cleaning. Not the little covering up clean, not the little, oh, I gave it a couple of swipes, so it's good. Like, no. It gets in deep into the skin, into the pores, and it takes out all that dirt and grime you've built up all day. Because if you're an athlete, you're going to be building up sweat. If you work in a union gig, most likely you're going to be working up a lot of sweat. If you work in retail like I do sometimes, you're going to be building up some sweat. And let me tell you, you'll want to get cleaned after it's all said and done, because there's nothing like a good soap that can get the job done for you. You give them a call at 844-890-3197. You can visit them on the web at www.soapstash.com. And you can also place your order at Soapstash LLC, which is where they prefer you to get your bars. Put it in, they'll send it off to you, and you will get cleaned like you've never been cleaned before.
I like it.
There you go.
One thing I want to add to that, too, is that they're going to be adding CBD oils to their products, which is really great for, like, psychosomatic anxiety, depression, things of that nature. It's going to be a big thing. They're one of the first out there to be doing it since the FDA has approved it. So it's another good adage, definitely another good adage. And it's going to be great for me because you're talking about sweating. I sweat just sitting on the couch, but I'm Italian, so that happens.
All right. Sweat like growing hairs, too. You know, whether you're Italian, you're either going to grow hairs or you're going to sweat. There you go. Great gene pool. Anyway, moving on. So, we were talking about the Las Vegas Golden Knights and whether they would be a successful franchise or they won't be a successful franchise. And it's a mixed bag. There are people out there who agree that they have the possibility of being successful, like me, but we're a little skeptical because of the scenario that they are in. Also the location. But there are those out there who believe that they could be and should be a successful franchise, like Mr. Brian Daly here and Mr. Rob Povia, as well as a few others out there who agree that, yes, they will be a successful franchise. Whether they will be or not, that is not up for us to decide. That is up for the hockey gods as well as for their marketing team, as Brian likes to put it, trying to make sure that that team is successful from the ground up.
Got to be successful from the ground up. If you want success, you got to set up for success.
Yeah, well, we will see what happens in their first NHL season, their inaugural NHL year. I wonder, are they going to put like patches on the jerseys, like a little knight at the top? It's like, oh, this is the first season the Golden Knights ever played. For everybody's jerseys, not just the Golden Knights. It'll be on every team in the NHL.
That would be stupid.
Like they do for the Centennial. It's the 100. Anyway, so we're also going to take a break from that, though, and talk about the farm systems of the NHL. And the reason why we're bringing this up is a couple of websites have ranked the 31 NHL teams, including the Knights, who have yet to play, and ranked them all the way from 31 to 1 to see who is the best farm system in the NHL currently. And going down the list, some are not so big surprises. Others of them are actually very surprising of where they land.
And this came from the Hockey Writers of America too, so this is straight legit. I just am very surprised some of the farm systems that really took leaps and bounds.
Yeah, and we start off with number 31 as always. You got to go from bottom, you got to go from worst to first. And we get from worst right here to the San Jose Sharks, who are the number 31 ranked farm system in the entire NHL, stating that they have not drafted well in the last 5 years. And, so far, you could kind of see that because there hasn't been a whole lot of young talent that's been coming up through the Sharks ranks. It's been more of guys they've gotten on the outside that they've brought in to make the team pretty dominant. But that's kind of been the trademark of the San Jose Sharks when you think about it. How Joe Pavelski and Patrick Marleau, sure. But after them, besides guys like maybe Vlasic, there aren't really that many guys who came up through the system. Hurdle's another one who's one of those rare exceptions to the rules.
Right.
But they wouldn't have got out a lot of the guys that wound up making big deals for them. Guys like Joe Thornton, guys like, what's his name? I always do this. I always forget the names of the guys that they wind up getting.
They went out and got Martin Jones.
Thank you. That was who I was thinking of. Thank you. But you get my point. They go out and they usually get guys and grab guys and usually try to make them fit in their team. They do a great job of it, though. They still wind up making the playoffs almost every year. But that's kind of their trademark. It's their drafting, though, has been a little lackluster.
Well, they've gotten some good guys out of the drafting. They've got, like you said, Thomas Hurdle, who's no longer with the club, and Joe Pavelski, Logan Couture. They have a really good scouting team, and they do a really good job bringing in young talent.
It just, but the farm system is like dead last, though. So you wonder what's exactly been going on with this team, though. Don't get me wrong, though. They might have to restock. But for now, they're like dead last sitting in the NHL.
Yeah, at some point, everybody's got to restock.
Well, moving on from 31. Rob, you want to say something? I know you do.
Another fan comment. Keep them coming. This one's funny. Ron Lorch chimes into our poll question: will the biggest Golden Knights be a successful NHL franchise? Yes or no? He goes, they'll probably win a Stanley Cup before the Flyers win their next one.
The sad part is he's probably right. That's the sad part of it. But anyway.
He doesn't really sound like a Flyers fan to me.
He's a member of the official Philadelphia Flyers fan group, so I'm going to side. But that doesn't mean anything because I ran into a lot of fans of the opposing team just trolling away. This sounds like a guy that's been through our misery.
Yeah.
I get that sense. This is definitely a Flyers fan.
Yeah, I got that vibe, too. The sense of that old Philadelphia negativity, the Negadelphia around here. Yeah. There's not much else to talk about, though, sadly. Moving on, number 30, the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's really no surprise. They've been bringing up a lot of their young bucks anyway. And to go along with it, too, they just are coming off of their second straight Stanley Cup in the last 2 years. usually the Stanley Cup winning team 90% of the time does not have the best farm system because their best players are already on the team. Usually that's how that works. So it's no shocker the Penguins are down here. Moving on, the Chicago Blackhawks, another team that doesn't surprise me that they're down here. They're a team that kind of needs to restock because they've been dominant for so long. They're still dominant. It's not like they couldn't add another cup to their collection, but they no shocker there that they're low on this list. Now, this team does surprise me a little bit. That's the Montreal Canadiens. Usually the Canadiens try to keep their farm system a little bit stacked because a lot of times we've seen the Canadiens bring up a lot of guys from their system that have wound up becoming bigger players for their team. That kind of surprises me that the Canadiens kind of went down a little bit here.
I mean, it doesn't really surprise me because they haven't really been going out and really drafting anybody worthwhile. I mean, you go out and you draft a guy like Alex Galchenyuk, yeah, he's a game changer for your team. Lars Eller never really turned out to be the player that they thought he was going to be. There's just a talent level that they're drafting. These guys just either aren't coming up or they're just not cutting it.
Well, it's a significant drop-off, and the weird part is that the Canadiens last year were ranked 11th, and now they are minus 17. That's a significant drop for a franchise for your farm system. Number 28 on there. Wow, that's just bad news for the Canadiens.
They're just too old.
Oh, yeah.
You're so old. And that's what they've gotten old, and they even got more old today.
That's true. They went and signed former Philadelphia Flyer, now once again Canadian, Mark Streit. And Stanley Cup champion, too, by the way.
But like Doug Pitra, FDN, did say, you like seeing that, though, guys having that homecoming. It's where he started his career, so good for Streit.
This will probably be his last year in the NHL. I mean, he's won a cup. What else is stopping him from retiring, you know?
True, and I think you're probably right there, but despite, like, skill level maybe diminishing a little bit, he's still in great shape. And hockey's one of those type of sports where you can play forever, which is surprising. You would think not, but people do.
Just ask Jaromir Jagr.
Yeah, just ask Jagr. It's them young ladies, man. It's them young ladies.
That's a double meaning because, he's 45 years old. Yeah, he still plays at a high level, but
he must play at a high level in both in the rink and in the bedroom because he keeps landing all these high young chicks. So, I mean,
God bless.
Where's he playing next
Gallagher.
year? Where's he playing next year?
That's a question.
Anywhere where hot women are. Anyway.
Apparently nobody wants him.
Yeah.
The teams don't want him. But maybe the ladies will petition for him to go there. I'm sorry, I got to keep this going. This is too much fun. All right. Sleep with one check model, and it's over. Anyway, moving on to the Ottawa Senators. They are number 27. Another team that's been really banking on their young talent. They've already brought them up anyway, so it's no surprise that they're kind of low here on this list.
Yeah, they got rid of one of their top prospects over this past. Was it this past trade deadline when they traded Curtis Lazar?
I believe it was.
Yeah, so I mean, giving up on a few prospects, but
moving on, number 26, Mr. Ryan Daly's Anaheim Ducks, sitting down there. And are you surprised at them landing this low?
No, I mean they do. Anaheim has done a good job at rotating players in and out of the lineup and figuring out who makes the big clubs and who doesn't, and Bob Murray has done an amazing job at knowing when these guys are ready to bring them up. These guys don't stay in the AHL very long in Anaheim. They just, as soon as they're ready, boom, they're in the lineup.
So they're not looking to make a Calder Cup dynasty?
Hell no.
Okay.
They want a Stanley Cup dynasty.
Oh, okay. Just wondering. Hey, you never know with some teams. Apparently that's what we want to do. But, we'll get into that in just a minute. But anyway, on to the number 25, the Washington Capitals, and a team that we thought might be planning on rebuilding. Yeah, they said hell no to the rebuild because they wound up re-signing TJ Oshie and went out and got even more talent that they can go out and look for. I got to ask, do you think that this is a good thing that Washington's down here because of the way, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still a really good team and they still are going to make the playoffs and everything like that, but with the way that this team chokes, you think they should just restock at this point, just be like, you know what, we should plan after the Alex Ovechkin era because it's looking like that may come very soon.
No, I don't think they should. I think they have a good team. I just don't think that Alex Ovechkin is worthy, I shouldn't say is worthy, but is a good enough leader on this organization to really wear that captaincy. I think they have all the talent in the world. They just They just can't win in the playoffs.
Do you think they should take the C off of him, put it on Oshie?
I think they should definitely take it off of Ovi, but I don't know if they have anybody really worthwhile to put the C on.
You could try Nick Backstrom.
Maybe giving Nick the C would help, but it doesn't help when your top player just disappears in the playoffs.
This is true. Yeah, this is true.
A guy who scores 50, 60 goals in a season, and come playoff time, he scores 3.
The regular season darlings of the NHL, the Washington Capitals. Boy, that playoffs is a tricky bitch, though.
Hey, they could have an ace up their sleeve here. You sign TJ Oshie, so you get him underneath your control. Now you could potentially, let's say they get off to a slow start in the 2017-18 campaign, then you could dish an Oshie and get a bunch of prospects back. You could even ditch an Ovechkin, which we've talked about on this show. And I really think that it's time to take the blueprints, crumple them up, and throw them in the trash can and hire yourself an architect.
Here's my disagreement here, and it's not with Ovechkin, because I think Ovi out of Washington would be a phenomenal thing for his career, as good as it's been.
Right, and I say that thinking about him as well as the Caps. Yeah.
As far as TJ Oshie goes, so they wouldn't sign into that type of contract if they had any intention of letting him go this year.
Yeah.
So as far as trading him this year, no chance, in my opinion. But maybe further down the line, if things don't go the way they think it's going to go, I could totally see him dishing him out to get some.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they're signing him to say, like, okay, we're going to sign him because then we could trade him. You're hoping that you keep this team together and you could put off a nice run. I'm saying when the shit does hit the fan, that's the benefit of it than, say, letting him walk and getting nothing.
It's
Fair
getting
enough.
close, though. I mean, it's getting close. That shit is getting ever so closer to that fan.
Right.
Like, it's – let's just say, here's the fan, here's the shit. It ain't that close, but it's getting pretty close.
Right.
In a few more years, it's right here.
So to Brian's point, I mean, I'm making the same point you are, and it just maybe I didn't alliterate it well enough.
Yeah, I mean, just the way I took it was you were saying that, if Capitals don't pan out this year you got to trade Oshie. But I think you definitely try and move Ovechkin before you move Oshie right now. Oshie's been the only one that's been consistent, through playoffs and regular season that, has really been a huge bright spot in this Capitals organization.
Yep.
That's going to be interesting. I mean, Washington, I hate to say it, but I picture a downfall for them. Like, and I'm not a Nostradamus or anything like that, but I could definitely say that that's not. You should have won.
It's coming.
You should have won by now. Like,
it's coming.
There is no reason why you have not won a Stanley Cup. There's no excuse.
Just like winter.
Yeah, just like winter is coming.
Winter
is here.
The downfall is coming.
Winter is here, by the way, so watch Game of Thrones. Anyway. All right, enough of that shameless plug. Moving on. Mick Foley would be proud. On to number 24, the Los Angeles Kings, who actually moved up. They were 30th, so they were dead last year, and they moved up 6 spots, which is good for them because they do need to restock. A team that kind of fell off a little bit after their Stanley Cup years. They've been trying to get back into the hunt, and they've been making moves to try and get themselves back into the hunt. Do you think that maybe they are going to try and do you think they're going to be like that team that hovers around and kind of be like they're semi-rebuilding at this point? I mean, they got rid of their coach. They got rid of the GM. They got rid of it. They pretty much were cleaning house. It looks like a semi-rebuild. John Stevens is their new head coach.
Good for him.
Well, actually, speaking of which, what's your opinion on that with John Stevens being the new head coach? I know you just said great for him. Do you like that move for the Los Angeles Kings?
I mean, he had success here as head coach.
He did.
So, I think it could be a good move. I mean, sometimes a team just needs a new leader. And maybe Darryl Sutter just wasn't cutting it anymore.
Yeah, when you missed the playoffs 2 out of 3 seasons, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, despite winning the 2 cups in this decade,
I mean, he's a good coach. I think he could make this team good again. Sorry.
The gag reflex kicks in. Finally, we figure out who he detests. It's the Los Angeles Kings. Anyway,
here's one of their biggest assets in that farm system. This is a kid I heard of, and I'm just rereading this here in this article. Spencer Watson, he was a 7th round choice, 7th round in 2014. And all the kid did last season, let me just scroll up here a little bit, in the OHL, 41 games played, 28 goals, 53 points.
So 7th round draft choice, huh? So this was somebody that they were thinking was never going to see a day in the NHL. Look at him now.
On the rise. So I think that's a reason why they've gone up 6 spots, in other words, amongst others.
Yeah,
just want to back up a couple spots here real quick, just to give you an idea. Like Anaheim Ducks, they're number 26. Yeah, they have good players in the farm system, no doubt about it. Just an example. So Sam Steele, center, drafted, I believe, the end of the first round 2 years ago. 81 assists, 131 points last year.
Wow. That's first round production right there.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What round was he drafted in?
The very tail end of the first. He was pick number 31 overall.
Plus, I mean, being in the bottom third in these rankings of the farm system sometimes can be a little misleading because the reason why their farm system's that low is because they're a pretty young team. I mean, I'm not talking about Corey Perry. I'm not talking about Getzlaff.
Right.
A lot of the secondary players on the team have already been up. They're up now. So
22, 23 years old.
Right.
And that's why they're so low. It's because they're not trying to build, as what Matty likes to say, is a Calder Cup dynasty. They're trying to win Stanley Cups. And like I said, Bob Murray's really good at judging when guys are ready to come up. Rickard Rakell broke out last year, 30 goals. Jakob Silverberg, 20-some goals.
Yep.
There's no reason to have it. I'm okay with being number 26 overall on the list. It means we're winning now.
So, speaking of young teams, let's talk about an old team, the New York Rangers.
Yes.
They're number 23. Now, they went up 6 places because, let's be honest, this team needs to get something going in their farm system because what are you going to do? You got to restock the shelves here because your expiration dates are pretty damn close. So let's be honest here. That team is old. And they showed their age against the Ottawa Senators.
They showed getting rid of Derek Stepan was...
Oh,
that's still a noodle scratcher. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell they were thinking trading him away.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really know what they were thinking when they were doing that.
It was clearly a move to try and get Kevin Shattenkirk. It had to have been a part of it.
Which, again, is another one of those. Don't get me wrong. I can understand why you would go and get Kevin Shattenkirk, a phenomenal defensive player. But you're trading old guy for old guy. Well, not that Kevin Shattenkirk's that old. He's not that old. But still, you're trading tit for tat. You give up offensive production for defensive production. Like, it's okay, but, what's the point? What's the purpose?
You're giving up that one offensive player that is productive to get a defensive player, and that's very productive. That's something that probably hurt them last year in the playoffs. And you still have that offensive support in Matt Zuccarello. You just re-signed Mika Zibanejad to a 5-year deal.
That's
so
true.
So you got those guys still in place.
You do have those guys in place. I mean, and I do understand why you would go out and get defensive help and defensive leadership because you do need help on defense. Not only that, you also are ticking down on the clock for Henrik Lundqvist, which I know we have brought it up, but the king ain't young. He's getting up there, at some point. He's not going to retire tomorrow though, but I wish. But he's getting up there. So you got to debate that. You got to start talking, okay, let's get some defense in here.
I didn't quite get that. Are you saying that Henrik Lundqvist is old?
That's good though. I like saying
so
it. I like saying it when talented players are getting old. That means that we're young. So that's what I love hearing that. Like we're young, they're old. I love hearing that.
Now, to their credit, and I hate even bringing this up, but I got to. I mean, it's responsible journalism or whatnot. Their biggest age weakness was on that blue line.
Yeah.
And so far in this offseason, they have addressed that well. They are getting younger in that blue line, and getting Shattenkirk was huge.
It was.
And you get rid of Dan Girardi, who's
old.
Yeah. He's old for an NHL player. So, I mean, and Dan Girardi goes to Tampa Bay, and he's going to try and prove that he was still worth having. So.
I was about to ask, didn't he did go to Tampa Bay again, right? Just like
did.
Ryan Callahan did.
one of their prize possessions in that farm system is a kid that's really on the rise, Pavel Buchnevich. He really has the skill set to spark the Rangers' offense, which they're going to need. I mean, we've been highlighting the goaltending and the defense, but we got some aging guys on that offense as well, and this is a guy that can step in. Matter of fact, did play, I think, about 40 games last year.
He played a good handful of games last year.
I'll look. Yeah, 41 games he played in the NHL last year. So he's got
half.
some NHL experience. Yeah, exactly.
That's more than a couple handfuls.
It's good. Well, you know what's good for them on that regard is
That's some St. Bernards, like Pamela Anderson handfuls. You know what I mean?
All right. I knew at some point we were going to get a Pam Anderson reference somewhere in here.
We need to get that Michaela Maroney Instagram back up.
Well, all right, you know what? We start the petition now. We put the hashtag out there. Hashtag bring it back.
That's right. I'll survive on all the hacks and the knockoffs, the fake parody accounts.
Oh, the
where
fake.
They just rip the pictures and then post them up like their own.
Or either that or the fake nudes that they usually post on athletes and such like that. Yeah.
I'm so happy nobody else got to see that, but I'm so sad that I had to see that.
Hashtag nipple rubbing. Anyway, moving on. Oh, God. All right. Speaking of nipple rubbing, the Florida Panthers at number 22. Definitely a team that could not afford for their farm. I mean, they got a great team. They got a really good team, but in my opinion, I think they need to fix something. Whether it's their farm system, which I don't really think necessarily is a big worry of mine. It's more of the system, and the front office needs to get their shit together. In other words, this team ain't doing a damn thing. Like, it's simple as that. I think that pretty much sums up everybody else's opinion, probably.
And they've gone down 2 spots in these rankings too, so it's not their farm system's only getting worse. It's pretty bad in Florida right now.
I mean, what a shocker.
The only thing that's bad in Florida, otherwise beautiful weather.
Especially the sunrise.
Right
on the beach. Yeah.
Has anyone else though think that Florida might be just a little too humid? My personal opinion. I don't know. I mean, sure, Florida's nice, and you got the great beaches and everything, and there's plenty of babes to go down there in Miami for, but honestly, though, doesn't it get a little humid? Wouldn't you like to, maybe you summer in, like, maybe you go up in summer in, like, a cold area from Florida, and you just live down in Florida in the winter. There you go.
Well,
maybe that's all you...
You're right, though. On the Bay side, very humid. Tampa Bay, oh, my goodness. I broke a sweat just opening a car door. But if you go on the ocean side, oh, no, it's perfect.
Perfect? Oh, okay. I was just wondering, because I've always wondered, like, people go down to Florida in the summer and be like, isn't it, like, really humid? Isn't it, like, 100 degrees down there, like, every day?
And then it rains.
Yeah, and then it rains.
It rains every 10 minutes.
And you would think that'd get rid of the humidity. It doesn't. So
It makes it worse.
Yeah, true.
All right, anyway. So, going into Florida, definitely not a good time to be a hockey fan down there. If you are a hockey fan down there, if you are, you're probably a fan of another team. Probably not a fan of the Florida Panthers. But anyway, moving on.
To those of you that are fans of the Florida Panthers, though, my hat's off to you.
Yeah.
You have
The struggle, it could not be more real.
Like, I'm sorry, that
Rat
organization.
bastards when they did that.
No more.
Nicely done.
Yeah, that year of the rat. Hold that real close.
They got a good goal. I mean, they just they need better scouting in Florida. I'm sorry.
They need a better everything in Florida, for Christ's sake.
They need better scouting.
They need a better front office. They need better coaching.
I think their front office is fine. They bring in decent players. Just the young guys.
They don't need a better arena, though. The arena's nice. I mean, they do have a nice arena down in Sunflower.
Top notch.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's something good going for you. You got... you had cool-looking jerseys. You had is the key word.
I kind of like the new ones.
I don't know.
I do too.
They're growing on me.
I don't know. It just look
The only
really...
thing I don't like is the numbers on the shoulders. That's the only thing I don't like.
Don't you think it's weird that they got that stupid stripe going across? It kind of looks like they're trying to rip off the Montreal Canadiens.
Well, no, you actually totally stole my argument. Was Montreal Canadiens do it? It can't be that stupid.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the Canadians are a legendary team. Florida, what do they have besides the year of the rat? They have nothing to go on.
To me, the new uniforms kind of look like the Czech Republic uniforms. Is it
Little
just
bit.
me?
Possibly, yeah.
Which is why I'm surprised they let Yager walk.
Yeah. paying homage.
Well, they let him walk because he's 45 years old.
Well, do you think they'll retire his jersey? It's not like they got anybody else to retire. So
Jovanovski's got Mellenby, John Van Beesbrook.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay.
Pavel Bure.
I don't think they're
I don't know. You
the
think more of a
Vancouver.
Canuck when you think of Pavel Bure. No, it's a New York Ranger actually.
Ew.
For the 3 years he was there with that shitty New York Rangers team. But anyway,
He was so good.
he was good, wasted on a terrible team. Anyway, actually both in Florida and in New York. But anyway, poor Pavel Bure. That's what you learn out of Florida is poor Pavel Bure. Moving on, we will talk more about this farm systems list when we come back, and we'll get into more franchise talk, the good and the bad. And we'll get into that on the other side. But first, I want to talk to you about Liberty Event Rentals. They're located at 2154 East Cambridge Street in Philadelphia, PA. You give them a call, 367-314-7368. You can visit them on the web at www.libertyeventrentals.com. Tables, chairs, tents, linens, anything you need for your party or event needs, go to Liberty Event Rentals. This is the Hockey Happy Hour on HDRadio.com. We'll be right back after this.
You're listening to the worldwide leader of Real Talk, A2DRadio.com.
A2DRadio.com is sponsored by The Sports Outlet for all your sporting needs. Located at 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey. Give them a call at 856-939-2030 or email them at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com for all your sporting needs. The Sports Outlet.
Welcome in to the worldwide leader of what? Real Talk, A2DRadio.com.
A2DRadio.com is proudly sponsored by Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants. Gibson Mayer, located in Yardley, PA, is a leading accounting and business consulting firm with a proven track record of handling critical issues with expertise across many different industries, including construction, distribution, hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, service trades, merchandising, professional services, and professional athletes. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. That's 215-369-3300. Your initial consultation is always free, and if you tell them that Tom and Mike from AM and the PM sent you, you'll receive 15% off all income tax services completed by February 15th. That's Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants, 215-369-3300, or visit them on the web at www.gibsonmayer.com. That's gibsonmayer.com.
Hey, do you need to get your skills in shape? Then contact the Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com. John Scanzano offers individual, semi-private, and team training lessons in hitting, pitching, catching, outfield, along with turf rentals. The Scanzano Sports Center is equipped with a 31,000 square foot indoor facility, 4 batting cages, and a 4,000 square foot strengthening and conditioning room. So what are you waiting for? Contact the Scanzano Sports Center today.
Fellas, you ever come in from that baseball or football game and your woman won't come near you because you stink beyond belief? Then you need Soap Stash. You should never settle for a generic hygiene product that only covers up the stench. Treat your skin with the best nutrients. Feel clean with the only soap you'll need. The highest grade carrier oils are ingrained in all of their products, which are 100% natural and terrific for your skin. No sulfates, parabens, or phthalates, and synthetic fragrance free. Contact Soap Stash for your sample package and give your woman what she deserves. You can contact Soap Stash at 844-890-3197 or visit them on the web at soapstash.com or Facebook at Soapstash LLC. Once again, their number is 844-890-3197. Soap Stash, the new soap standard.
You're listening to the Hockey Happy Hour, only on A2DRadio.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hockey Happy Hour. We are live from the BMW of Atlantic City Studios here in Mount Ephraim, New Jersey. And speaking of which, have you ever wanted the ultimate driving experience? Well, then you got to go to BMW of Atlantic City. They're easy to get to. They are minutes off of exit 37 of the Parkway, and they're located at 6037 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. You can give them a call at 609-568-9200, and they are online at www.bmwofatlanticcity.com.
Every time he does that, I swear I get scared he's going to knock my drink over.
So now, next time I will. Anyway,
Yo,
Probably could, too.
Energy drinks are worth money. Watch it, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
okay, and they
I
also,
found myself amusing. Nobody else does. It's fine.
but they also can make your heart explode too. So I mean, they got their negatives and their positives.
Of course they do. Mm-hmm. No, you're right.
But anyway, that's why I don't drink energy drinks. Water. Anyway, moving on. If I do that, it'd be shocking. Anyway, 107. I get to see this world blow itself up. That's awesome.
And how?
All right. On to our ranking list as we continue down the line here. Number 21, the Edmonton Oilers. Really, was there any prospects they didn't put on the team? I mean, seriously, they literally was just a process of draft them, they're on the Oilers. Draft them, they're on the Oilers. Draft them, they're on the Oilers. There really was no debating of putting them in the farm system.
No, especially when you're a top 3 pick over the continuous 5-year stretch where you get guys like
Try 8.
you get guys like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Neil Yakupov, Connor McDavid. Yeah.
Yeah, there was really nobody they drafted that they needed to put down in the minors. They were NHL ready. So.
I mean, Darnell Nurse was one where they picked in the first round. I believe he was a top 5 pick, and he wound up spending a couple years down in the minors. But overall, Edmonton is taking, if they're a top 5 pick, they're putting them, boom, right in the lineup.
I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, that was a team that had
Game
nobody.
changers.
So,
Every player that they had drafted in the last 10 years, game changers. You put them right in.
Absolutely. Next, number 20, the Buffalo Sabres, who are actually going down because, again, this is another team that, was trying to get younger out of the midst of them just collapsing completely. They have Jack Eichel, and they have other top players that they put up on their roster. But I feel like they should still be out there trying to get more because whatever they're doing is still not getting the job done.
Well, they're going back to something that they had tried before, and they're going to see if it still works, is with the acquisition of Jason Pominville, who they also got Marco Scandella in that deal too, which was really good on the defensive side for the Sabres. But again, I feel like their scouting team isn't really all that good.
I mean,
Then again, they're also that middle of the road team that, come second half of the draft, they're usually there.
well, I mean, let's see. Last time Buffalo had a go fuck yourself team was when they had Maxim Afinogenov, Jason Pominville when he was first on the team. They also had Thomas Vanek in his prime. They had Danny Briere. Yes, Danny B was on the Sabres before he was a Flyer. And they had Ryan Miller in the prime of his career. They had a lot of really good players on that team at that time. That was the last time they had a really dominant team. Ever since then, it's been downhill. They have never matched that team in years. Which is great news for me, personally, but still. Sure, they got Jack Eichel, but a blind man could tell that Jack Eichel was going to be a phenomenal player. It's just they haven't really drafted all that well over the last 5 years.
He's one of those no-brainers. Like you can credit the Flyers for picking Nolan Patrick, but it was
no.
It was you were picking him once you knew the Devils weren't going with. So. It was the same situation for the Sabres to the Oilers. He was with McDavid?
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah.
It was McDavid and Eichel, and then it was Austin Matthews and Patrick Laine.
Patrick Laine, yeah.
Got it.
Because it was
in successive years.
Yeah, because it was Nugent Hopkins and was it Landeskog? No, it wasn't Landeskog.
No.
Who came in with Nugent Hopkins? I forget who it was. I don't think he actually did all that well.
I think it was Aaron Ekblad. I think that was the year that Aaron Ekblad came in the league.
Oh, yeah. I think you're right. He went to Florida. Or he's on Florida now. But anyway.
So, looking back, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm looking back at the previous draft history of the Buffalo Sabres, and they've had some guys that just didn't cut it in the NHL, but they also have I don't like that name.
Holy cow. They have Zach Cassian as their first overall pick in the 2009 draft?
Yep. Back when he was actually a goal scorer.
Yeah, now he's a grinder.
Yep. I hate that guy. But jumping back to 2008, they drafted guys like Tyler Myers, Tyler Ennis, Zach Cassian, Braden McNabb. Like, these guys they're not bad players.
McCabe didn't turn out to be too bad.
No, Jake McCabe is turned out to be a really good defenseman. Rasmus Ristolinen's a pretty good defenseman. Sam Reinhart.
TJ Brennan wound up being a pretty good player. And he was drafted back in 2007 by the Sabres. I mean, he didn't do anything phenomenal, but he wasn't a bad player.
Morristown product, sorry. We're using the term prospect so much lately. And he was a second round pick. He just hasn't gotten a fair shot.
No, true. I mean, he's not bad though. He wasn't a bad player.
No, I think he's a decent player.
Oh God, these guys didn't even make the NHL. The rest of these guys, except Mike Weber.
No, Drew Stafford.
Drew Stafford.
Andre
Sekera. Well, there's a name though you haven't heard in a while. Mike Weber. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
It's been a while.
So I mean, they have good players. They just, it's more than not. They're getting guys that are just going to fill
they're journeymen, if anything.
Bottom 6 of their AHL club. I mean, Alex Nylander is probably going to make the team out of camp this year.
That's the first step of them, putting something around Jack Eichel. That's the first step of them trying to do something with this.
Yeah, you got to be, Sam Reinhart, Jack Eichel, Rasmus Ristolainen, that's your core guy. You got to start building around them.
Yeah. I mean, Buffalo, that's an interesting team. That's a team that just, for me, for whatever reason, they've always been perennially just been sucking for the better part of 8 years. No matter what they do, they've just been sucking, which is great because I don't like them anyway. So, you know what? Let them stay up in cold-ass Buffalo and let them suck all day.
Whatever happened to Gergensen?
Oh, my God, Zemgus Girgensons. I forgot they drafted him, didn't he? I don't know what the hell happened to him.
They also drafted Mikhail Grigorenko.
Didn't he get hurt? And Grigorenko's not on the team. He's on
Russia.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He signed a contract with Russia.
That's right. He went to Russia.
I don't know where he went. Let's see.
He's still on the Sabres, I think.
He is. He's still there. He's playing at least 60 games a year.
Oh.
Probably injuries.
Yeah, that's what I would think. It'd have to be injuries. But anyway, moving on from Buffalo at number 20, we go to number 19, Minnesota. The Minnesota Wild up on there. And they've been restocking their farm system in recent years. And they've been doing a really good job of just keeping that talent rotating in and out. This is a team that's going to continuously be in the playoffs for like the future years coming. Unless the Western Conference gets competitive, which it hasn't been for the better part of 2 years, Minnesota is just a perennial playoff player.
No, agreed. And they're another team that does a really good job of plugging in prospects when they're ready instead of going out and signing a veteran. And guys like Matt Dumba come in and they produce and they do a good job at doing what they do.
Yeah. Next up, number 18, the Colorado Avalanche. I don't think we're too surprised that the Avalanche are high on this list. A team that absolutely needs to rebuild from a team that's foundation kind of fell apart. They still have good players.
I disagree. I don't think they need to rebuild at all. I think they need to rebuild their coaching staff. They have a really good offense. They have your core group of guys is Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, and Matt Duchene. Whether or not he gets traded is another story. Just put an end to that story. They just need a couple of young defensemen and a goaltender. Other than that, they're fine. They just need pieces.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot they got the top prospect is Rocco Grimaldi. I always thought that was a cool name.
That's a cool name.
I actually thought that he sounds like a player who'd be playing on the Rockies, not the Avalanche. I could hear a name like Rocco Grimaldi coming up to bat.
Now batting left fielder, Rocco Grimaldi.
Yeah, he'd be the home run hitter too of the team. He would be the home run hitter.
I do think though the Avalanche they're in a fine spot. They just head coach that fits their system and a couple pieces here and there, and I think they're back in the playoffs.
I still say that Wah firing, it buried them. It really buried them. And until they do something that drastically improves, they've proven my point right. Moving on.
Well, real quick, a guy I'm really a big fan of in their system, Tyson Yost. Really good young player.
He was actually, I believe he was their first-round choice, if I stand correct.
I think they got him in a trade. I'm pretty sure they got him in a trade.
Did they?
Hang on. I'll look it up.
Either way, though, while you're looking that up, number 17, the Nashville Predators, who went down 3 spots. But you know what? That's not a bad place for a team that wound up being the runners-up to the Stanley Cup to be in. Hell, you could easily put more picks on your team. And you could really keep that team just going for years to come, especially with a team coached by Pierre Laviolette.
Yost was the Avalanche's 10th overall choice in 2016.
Okay, I was wrong. I'm thinking of somebody.
Okay, so
I might be thinking of somebody else.
All right,
Comes out of the University of North Dakota.
That's why I remember him. He was a Fighting Sioux. That's why.
Yes.
Anyway.
I tried to say that like Pierre.
North Dakota?
North Dakota.
North Dakota.
He tries to do that.
That's how you have to say it because that's how they say it, North Dakota.
Yes. Anyway, Preds.
Nashville.
Down 3 spots, but really doesn't matter.
No, their key young players are up already and producing.
They'll be sustainable anyway because they're in a good spot, so it's not really that big of a deal. For
The way I see it is if your AHL team is middle of the road or bad, it means your pro team is doing something right.
Yeah, true.
That's my opinion.
True, that's a good point.
And if you have one of the best AHL teams, you have to be one of the worst NHL teams.
Right.
Possibly.
But there are exceptions to that rule.
Possibly.
There are exceptions to that rule.
We'll get into the reasons why this team's number 1 in a minute. But anyway, there's varying reasons why. Yeah.
Little side note with the Predators, too, since we last been on, Victor Arvidsson avoided arbitration with the team by agreeing to a 7-year, $29.75 million contract. So, I mean, that's another boost to the sales of the runner-up of the Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah, think so.
If you've been a Nashville Predators fan and you were there from the beginning, hats off to you. You finally made it through the dark times. And now you celebrating. Don't celebrate too much, though. You only won the Western Conference title. But anyway, moving on. to the St. Louis Blues at number 16, and that's actually a very good place for St. Louis to be right now, a team that kind of topped off there midway through the season, who's lost Kevin Shattenkirk, they've lost a few, TJ Oshie as well. That's a team that really needs to they need to get something going, and they need to get something going fast. I mean, don't get me wrong, Grigorenko kind of snapped to it and single-handedly was carrying a team there, and Jake Allen was performing really well, but having a good farm system ain't a bad thing for St. Louis right now because they may need to go to it.
One of the high risers in this, up plus 7 spots, because you traded guys like that. You got a lot of good young players.
Yeah, you may need to tap into that pretty quickly for St. Louis if you want to stay competitive in this team, in this league right now. Moving on, number 15, the New York Islanders down 8 spots and they were originally one of the top spots, one of the top 10s in the farm system. Now they're number 15, but then again, they've been trying to build up their prospects and trying to get them onto that team for the better part of 4 years now. And it has gone okay at best, I think is the best way to describe the New York Islanders over the last 5 years.
It's possible that AHL team goes up with the trade of Travis Hamonic now picking up that second and third round pick.
True. Very, very true. On to number 14, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. They came in not ranked, and they're number 14, so their affiliate is actually pretty loved going into this.
They share an affiliate with the Blues right now, I believe.
Which would be the Portland. Oh no, the Peoria Rivermen. That's what it is. That's who.
I believe that's who they're.
Yeah,
I believe that's who they're sharing with.
The Peoria Rivermen is currently who they would be sharing with. Wow, they haven't shared minor league teams since the 80s.
Well, they're searching for an affiliate for Las Vegas, but for right now, they're just kind of sharing.
Yeah,
I think it's just going to be for this year.
I think it's indicative of how well they did in both the expansion draft and the plain old NHL draft.
Agreed.
To come in first ranking 14, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, so, hey, you know what? Maybe the Golden Knights will win a Stanley Cup before the Flyers win their next one. Anyway, moving on. All right. Next up, lucky number 13, the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are -9 from being another top 10. But then again, they've been bringing up their young talent.
Right.
So I don't really know if you could. Yeah, I don't know if you could really judge based on that. However, though, with the young talent that they have brought up, do you think they may take a step back this year after having the year they did?
I don't.
You don't?
I think they're still going to be a playoff team next year. I don't think they're getting out of the first round again, but I think they're going to be competitive enough that they're going to get in.
Well, I agree with Brian because any team that's, their goaltender is Sergei Bobrovsky, you have a good shot. You know what I mean? The goaltending alone can win in this league, but I just don't like the players they lost in this offseason, though.
No. I mean, I don't either, but you still got core guys there like Seth Jones and Zach Werenski. And
True.
Those are guys to build around. And I think that
Oliver Borkstrand coming up in the ranks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now moving on to number 12, Boston Bruins, who are -2. They were number 10 last year, but they actually have a lot of young players that could wind up being pretty good on their franchise in the future. So I don't really know if that's necessarily the worst thing in the whole world for Boston. I mean, yeah, sure, Boston's on the way down because of the aging veterans, but they do have youth sitting in their prospect camp in Providence. So I don't really know if Boston's going to make too much of an exit when it comes to playoff time. They may be gone for maybe 3 years tops, and then boom, they're right back to it.
Well, they did what they needed to do, really, because
Yeah.
they were getting very, very long in the tooth.
I don't even give them 3 years.
You say maybe one, possibly?
I think they fight for a spot this year.
All right, moving on. Number 11, the Dallas Stars, and they need it. They need a good farm team because they need something to inject some life into that offense that they absolutely need to be on top par if they want to be a team competing in the Western Conference. Last year, they were not that team.
No, if I remember correctly, their offense was fine. It was their defense and goaltending that suffered horribly last year.
They do. They are horrible on their defense and goaltending end, which they have been trying to shore up in this offseason.
And I think they did get in Radulov.
Yeah.
I think that'll help.
That will help. That will definitely help. Moving on to number 10, the Detroit Red Wings. They're getting into the top 10 now, and I'm not too surprised the Red Wings are up here. the Red Wings have been drafting very well, and they've been really stocking themselves up, knowing that eventually their streak was going to end. So good, smart move on their part, knowing that they couldn't bank on that forever. So
as an organization, they usually draft pretty well.
yeah, they've never really had bad drafts. Can't really say Detroit's ever had a bad draft. I don't really think they ever had. I mean, even with the really lacking draft in '99, they went and got Henrik Zetterberg out of that. So I mean, there you go.
That worked out pretty well. It would work out even better if I put my mic on, but that worked out pretty well for them. Another big thing for the Red Wings too, Thomas Tatar, they avoided that arbitration ruling by inking him to a 4-year contract as well. So, yeah, he'll be one of the leaders of this team as you're bringing up the Bucks of Youth.
The Bucks of Youth.
I think he's getting a little overpaid, though.
Yeah.
Well, okay,
definitely.
but at the same time, though, you're going to wind up having to do it if they have a really good season, which he did. So it's going to be – you're going to overpay for some people. Not the worst player to overpay for, though.
No,
not the worst player to overpay
not at
for,
all.
though.
I like Thomas Tatar overall. I just think he's getting overpaid.
I just always
But
thought,
that's just me.
Personally, I've always loved his name, Tatar. It's just a silly name.
Steak tartare.
Moving
I'm
on.
hungry. Don't start.
Yeah. Moving on. I am too. Moving on to number 9. Speaking of a team that's hungry, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Perfect transition. A team that made the playoffs this past year. Shocking. And they actually went down because, they went down 6 spots. But then again, when you brought up your young
entire farm
players,
system.
yeah, that's kind of what's going to happen. So,
But that's the impressive part of still being ranked number 9, and you brought up all those kids. I mean, how deep is this fucking team?
I know. Good God. Toronto's going to be forever dominant now. The Maple Leafs are back. They are back with a freaking vengeance right now. Moving on, number 8, the Calgary Flames, and I'm not surprised they're here. They're in the same spot they were last year. I think we can move on from that. What a shocker. The Flames are one of the top 10 farm systems in the NHL. Moving on, number 7, the Vancouver Canucks, and boy, oh boy, did they need it. The Vancouver Canucks, number 7, moving up plus 10 from being 17 this year, doing a great job at getting young players, getting their farm system restocked, because good God almighty, did they stink. So, good for the Canucks. So now that they're at number 7, what do you think? 3 years, 4 years, till Vancouver sees playoff action again?
I don't think we see the Sedins as Canucks by the end of the year.
You think they get traded?
Mm-hmm.
Trade deadline or end of the year?
Deadline.
Deadline? Okay.
Wow. Sorry, I'm still stuck on the Maple Leafs that they were 3rd and they only dropped to 9th despite all. I mean, man, they still got to unleash Kasperi Kapanen. I mean, he got some playing time, no doubt, 8 games. But anyway, sorry, I was on a
That's all right.
broken record there.
It's okay. You can get mesmerized by the Toronto Maple Leafs roster. It's
hard
unbelievable.
not to. It's hard not to.
That team's going to be so dangerous.
But you're saying the Sedins may not finish the season with the Canucks.
No, I totally see him getting traded.
Yeah.
So okay,
take 'em.
real fast though. How? I don't know about that, but moving.
Why not? I mean, you got prospects to move.
Yeah.
Bring in the Sedins.
No, I'm not trading prospects for the Sedin twins. Not even one of them. Thank you very much. No offense to the Sedin twins, but you guys are old.
I want Daniel.
Not Henrik. What? You have something against Henrik?
No, I just think Daniel's the better one. He's a goal scorer. Hendrick's a setup man.
Am I the only one though who can't tell the difference when they're out on the ice? I can't, honestly.
Daniel's 22. Hendrick is 33.
All right.
That's their jersey number. That's how I tell them apart.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know. You expect me to remember the Sedin twins numbers? They're not my twin team.
You didn't know?
powerhouse.
Better call somebody. Hey, as good as you were saying the Detroit Red Wings have had in drafting, look at the Canucks. They were 17th last year, up 10 spots. I believe that's the biggest gain in these rankings.
I believe so. Yeah.
They have
Oh,
a really.
no. I think number two is the biggest.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah.
I do think, however, that the Canucks have a really good set of young talent, led by Jake Virtanen. But Virtanen needs to start playing. He has been not exactly the type of player that they drafted. He has not been the player that they drafted.
One of the many reasons why Vancouver's kind of topped off. How long do you think, though, until Vancouver sees the light of day in the playoffs again?
I say about 3 or 4 years.
I was thinking the same thing myself. What about you, Rob?
10 years.
10.
No, it's tough to judge. I mean, how these guys will maturate. Just making the playoffs?
Yeah.
I think it could be sooner than that. But
Really?
actually being a relevant, actual contender, I'd say, 3 to 5 years.
Well, I would say, though, that's not too far stretch of the imagination, only because the Western Conference does have a tip-off when
Right.
it comes to the talented teams and the competitive teams. Because, I mean, how many points separated the two wild cards from almost everybody competing for that wild card? That was a significant numbers difference.
I mean, I could totally see why you could say that. I mean, because they still have players like the Sedin twins. They have Louis Eriksson. They just signed Sam Gagner and Michael Delzato to contracts. So
Right.
they bring it. They're bringing in the veterans to build around the rookies. But
Did you already mention Thatcher Demko?
I did not.
Yeah, he's a
Demko,
guy
yeah.
to look out for, too. I actually had him on my fantasy team last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Deep
then.
league.
Moving on
Very
to
deep.
number 6, the New Jersey Devils. All right, anyway. Moving up 3 spots from their 9th spot last year. This is a team that needs to find goal scoring, and they need to find it fast, or otherwise they ain't competing in shit.
Nico here.
I think they did. I think Nico's is what they've been waiting for.
And I think Nico is the exact reason they went up 3 spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. This team has just they've failed to really do anything over the past 4 years.
You do have a good bloodline, though, in John Quinville.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. You very much do. Number 5, the Arizona Coyotes. Is anyone else surprised that they're here? I'm not.
They're actually
Really?
down 3 spots.
They're down, but
Yeah.
I'm still not surprised they're in the top 10,
No.
even remotely.
Nah, Dylan Strome. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They still got a lot of prospects that have yet to see the light of day that are going to be phenomenal
Yeah,
players.
Strome had in 35 games played in the OHL, 22 goals, 75 points.
Yeah, so they've been doing phenomenal out there.
Yeah, they do a
But
good job of building a team. They
75
just
points in 35 games.
know.
Holy cow.
that's at least 3 points a game.
Yes.
Yeah, for all the pandering and for all the BS I throw at the Coyotes being a crap organization, they do have a great scouting department. They really
they do.
do.
They just need to cut ties with some of the vets and start bringing some of the young kids up and actually building this organization.
for the first time.
Pretty much.
All right, on to number 4, the Winnipeg Jets, who are down for being the first in the league. But then again, they were bringing up young bucks for their season because they realized they weren't going to make the playoffs. And they did get Steve Mason, so they've been shoring up their goaltending issues. Now they need to shore up their defensive issues to go along with it. But if they can address that, Winnipeg can actually be competitive in the West.
They could have a good defense if Tyler Meyer can just stay healthy.
Yes, absolutely.
He's had that issue in Buffalo, which is a part of the reason why the Sabres were so willing to trade him.
Yeah, if he can stay
Part of.
healthy, part of. You want to go into those other reasons?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm good.
All right. Moving on to number 3, the Carolina Hurricanes. And no surprise, this team's been bottom feeding for the better part of 6 years. So it's no shocker that they got one of the top farm teams. The question is, though, can they make it gel? Because that's been their biggest issue, is making it gel. They haven't been able to do it for the better part of 3 years now. Even with Jeff Skinner and Noah Hannafin, they are still struggling.
I think they're coming along. They get better just about every season, and I think the addition of Justin Williams is going to help.
Some of these young kids, yeah.
Yeah, because don't get me wrong, Jordan Stahl's a good player and all, but he's not the type of leader that Justin Williams is. Justin Williams is a guy that's going to come in and take you under his wing and show you how to be a really good winger in the NHL.
Well, that's what the problem was when they bought into the Jordan Stahl hype in the first place, because the Penguins couldn't hold on to all 3. They couldn't hold on to Malkin, they couldn't hold on to Stahl, and they couldn't hold on to Crosby. Who did the Penguins cut tie with? Stahl, the least talented out of all 3 of them. Of course they're going to do that. They're not stupid. I wish they were, but they're not stupid. They know which one to cut ties with.
I don't know. They did sign Brian Dumoulin to a 6-year contract. I didn't like that.
Well,
I mean, $4 million a year, so not talking about breaking the bank, but
No.
I mean, role playing, if anything. The length is the only thing I would say is a little silly. But other than that, though, it's still not a bad player.
I might want to prefer Stahl. I mean, I'm not. I don't mean that to be disrespected. Yes, I do. I do mean that to be disrespectful.
Yes, be disrespectful. That's
But I mean, that's going to be a key question coming into this season. Can the Penguins overcome the loss of key players as they seek the three-peat, the elusive, never been done?
Well, I mean, let's see. The last team that three-peated.
Oh no, yeah. What am I talking about? Never mind.
Well, I'm just trying to think of what the last team was that did it.
It was the Islanders.
It was the Islanders.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Duh.
So the last team that did it had Bob Nystrom, had Billy Smith, had who else? Oh my God, the list goes on and on with that team. Bob Nystrom. Oh, Mike Bossy. Good God. We can go on forever with that team. But anyway, that's the last team to win 3 straight, folks. Even the Edmonton Oilers did not accomplish that feat. Moving on.
Canadians did though, right?
The Canadians did before
the
the
50s.
before the Islanders did it.
Yeah.
The Islanders are the last team to do it because they won 4 straight. So, and no, I don't think that the Penguins are going to win 4 straight. If they even wind up winning 3, good luck trying to win 4. By then, half these teams will be in full development, and it'd be impossible for you to get to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, I don't think that can be done in this modern era.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore. All right, number 2, the Tampa Bay Lightning jumping 16 spots from being at number 18, and they did a really great job of just building this franchise back up. They had a very bad year this past year, but they're still a dangerous team. And to add to it with having one of the best farm systems, Tampa could very easily win a Stanley Cup. They could very easily win one next year. They could win one for the next 3 years.
Maybe even longer.
Maybe longer, yeah.
I mean, you got your core group of guys on the contract long term, at least 5 years for all of them. Stamkos, Tyler Johnson, Victor Hedman, so on and so forth. And
You get that going.
the fact that you can release players and plug in a young talent, not many teams can say that they can do that and still be a winning hockey team.
And they also have a top prospect, Callan Foote. Adam Foote's son.
I was about to say.
Yeah. Yep, it does have the E at the end, in case anybody was wondering. I've always thought that was funny. I always
Footy.
Yeah, I've always wondered if it was pronounced footy. I was shocked that it was just pronounced foot. But anyway.
Pretty sure I've called it footy at one point when I was younger.
Isn't it always fitting, too, that his last name is Foot and the patch on the shoulder of the jersey is a giant Sasquatch foot? I've always found that weird, right?
I always wanted that jersey. I still want that jersey. I would go out and pay money for that jersey. Avalanche jersey.
They were awesome jerseys. Colorado Avalanche always had cool jerseys. Moving on. The number 1 in the entire world, and in case you have not figured it out by process of elimination, is the orange and black, the Philadelphia Flyers. You can cheer, but you can also say boo, because there's a couple of reasons why it's this way. First reason why is we haven't brought up the young talent. Second of all, we haven't been able to bring up the young talent. That's the other issue, because we had terrible contracts that are still handcuffing us today, but we have been slowly getting out of it. We've been slowly bringing up the youth, but we've added so much more depth to our forwards. Isn't that phenomenal? We got Isaac Ratcliffe. We have Morgan Frost, Nolan Patrick. Our goaltending depth is phenomenal. Carter Hart. To go along with it, you have Anthony Stoli, who should be our goalie this year. But we're not going to open up that can of worms. I took my happy pills, so we're not going to get into this today.
Right. Plus, young guys that you acquired, Jordan Wheel being the quintessential example of that. So glad he didn't get nabbed in the expansion draft, because this is a good talent in that deal that we got. We shut off some aging veterans, guys like Pascal Labarge, German Rubtsov, Oscar Lindblom have all been thriving, all excellent forwards. Taylor Lear, it's actually starting to match the defensive strength.
And to go along with it, too, we've also gone out and gotten younger players like Mike Vecchione off of the college circuit, who was in line to be one of the Hobey Baker winners, which would be the best college player.
I think he was the Hobey Baker winner, actually.
Point being, though, is that we went and grabbed him, which was a smart move on the Flyers' part because I don't think anybody was really paying attention, and really, to be completely honest with you, and they went and snagged him.
I think it all came down to where he wanted to be, and I think he saw the future that the Flyers have, and he wants to be a part of it.
And he also is a former playing mate with Shane Gostisbehere.
I'm sure Shane had a.
I'm sure
to do
Shane.
with that too.
Shane probably threw him a few texts and a few calls saying, "Hey, buddy, come on over, man. It's awesome over here in Philly. Yeah, man. They treat you like a king over here, dude. They gave me a hooker the first day I was on the job.
Can I be a Flyer?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm always wondering because every player has always said they love the Flyers organization. Do they honestly do that? I think they do. I think they really do go to cheerleaders and say, "Yep, she's gonna suck you off later as long as you're a Philadelphia Flyer." All right, I commit. You got me. You got me when you brought me here. Just saying.
You had me at hello.
All right. But anyway, yeah, the Flyers being the number 1 overall. Good thing and somewhat bad thing, but really great thing at the end of the day. Why? Because that means, well, all of our rivals can get older and get their blood transfusions out and get their walkers out and get their canes out to the ice. We're going to be young, bright-eyed, and fast and aggressive. And not afraid to send those old codgers out on those walkers right out of the NHL. Because that's what's going to happen in the future.
I think that some of these big contracts have to go.
Oh,
But
they're
then
going to
again,
go.
I'm not the only one that thinks that. And once some of these other bigger contracts go and you can have more freedom,
Oh, yeah.
this Flyers team, that they're not going to sit in that number 1 spot for long.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why you get creative with the two-way contracts for some of these younger players or what have you. And, I'd be interested in maybe, if you can't go anywhere else, buyout. You know what I mean? Okay, it'll cost you a little more now, but in the end, it'll be better for the development of this team.
That's a good point. Which actually, come to think about it, that brings up a great point. At the end of this year, if you can't dish off Andrew McDonald, why don't you just buy him out?
Right.
I don't think you can. You don't have the amnesty buyouts anymore. You only have the 2.
That's correct. Yeah, we did use it up.
Use them both. You used them one on Danny Briere and one on Ilya Bryzgalov.
Yep.
Well, we had to use the one on Ilya Bryzgalov. We had no choice.
Looking at the positive, though, like I said, they really developed their younger forward talent. These were guys they already had that they've been continuously developing. But looking at this draft in particular, a little bit of it was luck. They were supposed to draft 13th. They won the second pick in the lottery. You get Nolan Patrick. But then came creativity with trades. Trading away a fan favorite in Braden Shen and turning that into Morgan Frost. That was the draft pick you got in that deal. Plus, you got a player from the Blues. And then you go on and you draft
Isaac Ratcliffe?
Isaac Ratcliffe as well. So, I mean, right there, that solidified it. Now there's balance, and we've been screaming for that balance. You got these defensemen that are ready to come up. So you're going to see the Flyers step out of this number 1 spot in next year's ranking because several of these guys we have talked about in past shows coming up on this team.
Travis Sanheim. Samuel Moran. Sorry, I got to do something about that cough. Anyway.
Listen, you're not the only one that thinks Moran and Sanheim are making this team out of camp, so.
They have
a lot of people do. Like, Sanheim even said he's ready. Like, let's go.
Didn't either him or Moran say, like, I'd better make the Flyers?
Sanheim.
Yeah, Sanheim's like, I better make it. It's like, you damn right you better. Right. And you know what? Hextall better put you on that damn thing. Or a freaking else at this point.
I wouldn't even mind seeing Philip Myers up as well. I mean, he's a big talent that nobody talks about because, you got the Gostisbehere, the Provorov, and these 2 gentlemen we just spoke of. Philip Myers has a potentiality of being a long-standing NHL defenseman.
And he could be like that third pair that you could put down there and have him work with pretty much anybody, That
problem, here's the thing, and just believe me, this is a good problem to have because we had this problem in Anaheim. A lot of defensive prospects that are going to be good or projected to be good in the NHL and nowhere to put them.
Right.
True.
It's not a bad problem to have, believe me, because then you can trade them away because I'm expecting at some point in Anaheim to trade away a Brandon Montour because we have nowhere to put him.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, look at it this way, though. In one simple facet, because I know we signed Rocco Gudis to a long extension, you could actually dish off Rocco Gudis if he has really good years. Productive years. I'd
say trade him anyway.
Well,
give me a puck or 2 and I'm good.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's my idea for future of moving him because clearly we're going to be with him for like the next couple seasons or so.
3 years left on his contract now?
I believe.
4-year deal, yeah.
I think at most we could see. We'll definitely have him this year. But if he has a really good year, you might be able to sell somebody on a 2-year contract to take him.
Oh, I think if he has a good year this year, you'd be able to sell him, especially if you have a younger
what
player
that's
ready
what I
to
meant.
go.
That's what I meant because it'd be 2 years left on his contract, so it would actually work out better for you. And then that creates a spot wide open for another defensive prospect to come on up, like a Philip Myers.
Yeah, and maybe not necessarily. You're not necessarily trading away Gudas because he's old, because he's only 25.
Yeah, he's
still young, just coming into his prime. And I said this all of last year. I just don't like the lack of discipline.
Well,
his temper gets the best of him.
It's not that anymore. It's more the fact that his reputation precedes him, because a lot of people would say that he put clean hit on people and he still got thrown in the box.
Well, you're right. His reputation does precede him, but
that's the big issue.
The organization's always going to have close ties with Gudas for one reason only. You gave up Brandon Coburn, who was a longtime Flyer, for him. So it's like you don't want to see that go to waste.
True.
I think it's bullheadedness. It's stupid thinking, but that's what's going on.
True. I mean, that's why they desperately clung to Luke Shen for a few years, trying to get something out of him for JVR, which was the dumbest trade. No, that wasn't the dumbest trade. The dumbest trade was Sergei Bobrovsky. That was the dumbest trade. That was the dumbest one.
I mean, hindsight's 2020. At the time that they traded him, they didn't expect him to be the goaltender that he was.
He had he looked like he was gonna be, for Christ's sake. He spent most of his time in the net because Brizgalov couldn't stop anything.
I think they were.
And they said the same thing about Brizgalov. They said the same thing about Steve Mason. They're just average goalies at best. You really don't know what you have. And you see him blow up on another team, and then you're just like, oh, they should have never done that. But meanwhile, at the time, the trade was a good trade.
So the Brizgalov one, yeah, sure. Hindsight being 2020, he had really good years with Arizona, but he had a really good defense in front of him in Arizona.
True.
To go along with that, though, Bobrovsky, the times he was shown in the net, he was phenomenal. And he had really shut out teams and had done extremely well for a rookie, too, who had no NHL experience. Was not drafted either. He was not drafted. We found him sitting in Russia in the KHL. We found him in Russia. And yet he showed he was able to adjust to the NHL game like that.
They were trying to avoid a repeat of Ontario Ninemaki.
Yeah.
Because at that point, up until the point that we traded Bobrovsky, looked very much as an up-and-coming goaltender like Ninemaki was, who fell off the roof. So I think it was just all about avoiding past mistakes.
So at the time, it was a good trade because you're giving up Sergei Bobrovsky for Calder Trophy winner.
Right.
So, like I said, hindsight's 2020.
I get hindsight's 2020 now, but
But
at the time, I still scratched my head at that deal. I still didn't like it when it first happened because it's just like that's just a bad move because Sergei Bobrovsky didn't do anything to get thrown off the team, and the only reason they traded him was to show that they were more willing to stay with Brizgalov, which was at the end of the day the worst decision they could have made.
Well, this is not necessarily something that he did to offer him to be traded, but sometimes it's just a move to make solidify another move.
I get that, but it's just I don't know. Looking back on that deal, even I would have scratched my head at that. I did at the time. I just thought it was a bad idea.
You can call this me being naive, but sometimes I think GMs trade players like Sergei Brizgalov or
Bobrovsky.
Yeah, Bobrovsky. I don't know why I said Brizgalov, but anyway,
Sergei Brizgalov.
Sergei Brizgalov. No. You trade players because you don't want to see a talent like Sergei Bobrovsky just sitting on the bench behind somebody. Trade them so they can get the playing time.
Yeah, but again, though, after they had bought him out, too, it'd been like, well, then you should have just bought him out and just kept Sergei, and you should have just put him in as your starter, and it would have solved the problem. And hell, we wouldn't have had the goaltending carousel.
Who says that he was he's going to solve the problem? You don't know that.
He solved the problem in Columbus. At the time you didn't.
Right.
But at the time you didn't know that. But you could have held on to him as a prospect, you could have had him, and you could have given Brizgalov another year and goes, you know what, he ain't panning out, so we'll buy his ass out and we'll put Bobrovsky in, and that way he can be our starter. And there you go. You have your young goalie who can be a phenomenal goalie, and he wound up winning 2 Vezina trophies, and he does it for the Flyers. I mean, I'm not saying we win a Stanley Cup with him, but at least we're competitive when we're facing the Rangers and when we're facing Washington. We're not getting our asses handed to us just because of goaltending alone. You know?
Well, I mean, like I preach all the time, your goalies is only as good as your defense, and the Flyers' defense hasn't
our
been
defense
great.
Was still shitty, but still, he would have been tested. But I think we would have fared a little bit better with Bobrovsky. Don't get me wrong, though. Columbus did show perfect signs of bad defense equals elimination in the first round. But
so there you go. I mean, it's until Sergei Bobrovsky wins a cup, you can't really just sit there and say that he's a game changer.
Okay. I don't know. I still think that if we had him in goal, we wouldn't have this problem. Then again, though, we would not have seen Anthony Stolarz, and we would not have gotten Carter Hart because we would have never had thought it would have been necessary.
There you go.
So I guess in the long run, there is a blessing, and there's a silver lining in that.
And ultimately, we will get the solution to the goaltending, conundrum that's been, as long as I've been a Flyers fan, it seems like. And because one of these two guys is going to be an elite goaltender in this league, and I think it's Carter Hart, as much love as I have for Stoley. But, I mean, just having that qualified guy that's just going to start 65 to 70 games in the year is worth its weight in gold.
And I think that's also another problem with the Flyers is the goaltending merry-go-round that they have, carousel.
Yeah.
This guy's going to start 5 games, and he's going to start 3. He's going to start 3. He's going to start 5.
Right.
No. Sorry. You're not going to win that way.
And I'm not backpedaling here, but let me just say this easily, the guy could, like Roman Reigns, could be Anthony Stolarz. I'm not writing him off by any stretch of the means. Competition's good, though.
Competition is very good.
It is. It works out for the best of us. I mean, hell, Neuwirth and Mason performed very well with competition between each other. Actually, a lot better than we thought they would. And the team damn near overachieved and made the playoffs for a second straight year in a row. We would have been eliminated in the first round anyway, but still. Actually, come to think about it, we would have faced Ottawa in the first round if we had won the wild card spot and beat out Boston.
This year?
Yeah, because Boston wound up facing Ottawa.
Yeah.
So we would have wound up facing Ottawa. Actually, we don't have a good track record against them in the playoffs. And I think Rob remembers back in the early 2000s, the 2 times we faced them in the first round, we absolutely got crushed. But then again, they had Marian Hossa in his prime. They had Daniel Alfredson in his prime. They had Chara. Who was their goalie? Was it Damian Rhodes? I think it was Damian Rhodes.
What year?
It was in the early 2000s. I think it was 2001. I'd like to think.
Pretty sure they had Danny Heatley on that team.
Danny
too.
Heatley too. 2001, and I think 2000.
He kills his friend in his car accidents, I hear.
He's a fucking all-star, too.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I remember that like it was yesterday, and it was amazing, and I still to this day look up for that video once in a while.
You talking 2000, 2001?
Something like that, yeah. I'm thinking they faced them that year. I'm trying to remember. It was in the early 2000s. I know that. It was the same time period where we wound up facing the Buffalo Sabres, and we got creamed by them, too. So, hence my hatred for the Buffalo Sabres.
Patrick Lalime.
Patrick Lalime. There we go.
Ooh, forgot about him.
Patrick Lalime. Boy, did he not turn out really well. Dude.
Well, at least that was 2000, 2001. I'll quickly look up 01, 02.
Yeah. Boy. Wow, Patrick Lalime. Wow, whatever happened to him? Oh, yeah, that's right. He didn't turn out all that well for Ottawa.
He just kind of didn't pan out.
You know what? That's the funny part. I always debate why those Ottawa teams never able to break into the Stanley Cup Finals. There's your answer. They never found a solid goalie. They really never
still
did.
don't have one in Robin Lanier. They have a hothead. He really is. He gets mad over the stupidest shit every time I watch a Sabres game.
Wait, you mean Ottawa?
Robin.
No, I was talking about Ottawa.
Oh,
Because
they did have Robin Lanier at one point too.
They did?
They did.
Oh, wow. That was a long time ago.
So I wasn't wrong.
No, you weren't wrong, though. But you are right,
Wrong
though.
team.
Wrong team, but still,
Great
Lanier.
player.
Lanier is still a hothead. He is still annoying in that regard. Yeah.
He was. He still is.
Yeah, God. But again, though, Ottawa never could nail down that goaltending position. Then again, that's the pot calling the kettle black. We could never do it either, and we ran into the same problem.
And I think by the time they finally found a solution in Craig Anderson, it's a little late because he's starting to get up there.
Yeah, and the team could not follow him because the team had fallen off by that point in time. However, though, I will actually throw this out to you guys, and Flyers fans can feel free to jump in this. If we had and kept Brian Boucher at his young prime time period, like we had him when he was young, he was a rookie. Mm-hmm. If we had kept him and we had decided that he was going to be our starter, would the Flyers have had a problem with goaltending throughout that early mid-2000 period going into this era? Because Boucher was a phenomenal goalie.
Always consistent, too. So you never had drop in level of play where it created a goalie controversy. You know what I mean? Maybe you'd have guys challenging him because we've had several talents, come up over the years. But, yeah, Boucher would have been that calmness, that voice of reason, just as he is as a commentator. I love a favorite, Brian Boucher. He's coming close to John LeClaire territory.
I think the Flyers would have been in a better situation with Bouch, but
do you think that they would have at least been competitive and they would have at least been able to say, I don't know, compete with Brodeur and the New Jersey Devils?
Oh, of course. And they even competed with the goalies that they had.
Yeah, I
think Boucher in his prime would have been a good goalie to have during that time frame.
Dare I say, we beat Nikolai Khabibulin in the Tampa Bay Lightning, and we go to the Stanley Cup Finals to compete with Mika Kibrasov and the Calgary Flames.
I mean, it's possible. I think the Flames would have had that Stanley Cup, though. But
we had a pretty good team back then. Of course, they were old guys.
Even think about it, Jeremy Roenick, Tony Amonte, just to name a couple.
Zharkov, the rest of them, Johnny LeClaire and the rest of them. But anyway, we can talk about history all we want. It's time for us to head on home. It's time for last call. I know it's hard to pull away from all this, but it is.
It is.
All right, that will do it for this edition of the Hockey Happy Hour. We will see you all next week on A2DRadio.com. We are brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, your certified public counsel, located 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA. Give them a call, 215-369-3300. From all of us, I'm Matt Tsutsudi. That's Brian the Darkwing Daily, Rob the Broken One Povia. We will see you all next week on A2DRadio.com.